right, thanks for watching. So real quick, I know a lot of people have been saying, Merk, we're glad you're back. It's been a while. Glad you're putting out consistent videos. But you guys got to understand, I went through a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff happened. And that's life. And that's what happens. When you go through things, you got to take time out from some of the things you love to do. And for me, I love putting out this information. I've been doing it for almost 2 decades on YouTube. So that was the issue. So, Dad died. I had, IRS seized my accounts. Lost my car, house, all kinds of stuff. I had to really, make a lot of different moves. But that's the good thing about being educated and having knowledge, because if you fall, you know how to climb back up. And knowledge is power, which is why I share it, because if you got the knowledge of how you made the money, you can always go and make the money back again, which I did. I was able to get everything cleared and, basically climb my way back up. So now I have more time to go and do what I love to do, which is put out this information. I created a society for that reason, to get out more information, to help you guys get better equipped with the knowledge you need for, so you guys don't fall into what I fell into. So that's the whole point of personal economics and everything like that. Some things you can't help, tax shit, IRS and all that. You got to make sure your shit is right. My situation was different, which I described before, but, it is what it is. But I'm glad I'm back. I appreciate everybody who stuck around and stuck with me. It's tough a lot of times to crawl out of a deep hole, but you can get done anything you need to get done. So yeah, I hope you guys take that with you and just, don't worry about where you at in life. You can always get to where you need to be, or get back to where you was. You just got to keep fighting and keep moving and keep doing what you got to do. But yeah, let's get into this video. So now let's go back. End of World War II, right? The dollar becomes the world reserve currency, right? So we know America had a lot involved in World War II. What happened with Pearl Harbor, us dropping the atomic bomb. But there was a lot of countries involved in World War II. So why America? Why the dollar being the world reserve currency? And that's because the dollar was pegged to gold, right? So the dollar had a fixed exchange rate to a specific amount, for gold, which is basically $35 per ounce. And the other countries agreed that the dollar would be, the best use. And they picked the dollar, right? So now you could basically take dollars and buy gold, which we know Nixon basically banished that whole thing and got rid of it. So you couldn't no longer exchange dollars for gold or what have you. And what replaced that would be fiat currency, right? What we have today, whole fiat currency, which is bullshit. Basically, them being able to, print money that's backed by nothing, right? So the reason why gold is really important, the reason why it's a big deal to have a gold-backed currency is because when you have a gold-backed currency, you can avoid things like inflation, because the dollar will be backed by a specific price for what gold is, right? So you would avoid inflation, which we know inflation is the cause of things going up. So if you're trying to buy something that costs, $100, and you saved up $100, right? So now by the time you save that 100, the cost of that good or service has went up, right? This is inflation. So now your $100 isn't worth $100 anymore, because what you're trying to use it for to buy isn't the same price anymore, right? So thinking about that, but in terms of gold and oil and commodities, what have you, this is a big deal, because now if I'm buying dollars and I'm hoarding dollars to buy specific things like gold, oil, and anything else that's priced in gold under the whole dollar being the world reserve currency, I should say, anything priced in dollars, then now I have to make sure I have enough dollars. But then every time I have enough dollars and I go to buy specific things, the cost of those goods and services goes up, meaning my dollars are not worth what they was when I got the dollars, right? Inflation, it's a big deal, it's a problem. But if it was fixed to a specific price for the commodity, which would be gold, then we don't have that problem, right? Gold is gold. You don't have to speculate on gold. It's going to go up, and it shouldn't never go down. But if it go down, it's going to be a reason why it go down. It's going to go up, because we know we have gold. The gold is there, right? So gold would be the best thing, and silver, what have you. Any type of real precious metal or real commodity, it will be the best thing to back, our currency by, right? So everybody agreed on that. This was good. Nixon came along, got rid of the whole thing. Now that's a problem, right? So now you would think back then for, the Middle East, for African countries, they're like, well, shit, bet, because we have an abundance of gold. Not so much, what the other countries, we know a lot of the gold is in Africa, and a lot of the gold is in the Middle East, the oil is in the Middle East. right? So they will be happy with the whole situation, which now you understand why we had these invasions, we had these problems, because now once you get, which I told you guys before, to get into the whole esoteric background of World War II, as I told you, World War II was done so they can have a basic, European New World Order, right? And that's what, World War II brought about, a new world order for Europe. We had the whole, European Union and everything that came out of that. And then the dollar being the world reserve currency. And then now in America, after that, going into every country to basically rape them more resources and basically change the way the world was going to be run, right? So we have that. So now these other countries are sitting back and they looking like, well, damn, everything is good as long as this stuff is backed by gold. We have that, right? Okay, you want to price oil in dollars? Cool, we have plenty of oil. But now once you get rid of that, that's an issue, right? Now, of course, America has gold. We have oil. But it's different because you have gold and oil on private lands. And you have to not only pay people in America a very decent wage to dig up that gold and get that oil, but you also have to buy the land itself and probably give the owner a percentage of what you pull out of the fucking ground, right? But you go to Africa or you go to the Middle East, guess what? You don't have to do the same thing. You can go in there and pay these people pennies, right? Or you can arm their enemies to go in there and drive them out of the land. And they basically need you for protection. So they allow you to come in there with your machines or what have you and take the shit out of the ground because you're providing protection and food or what have you, or aid or whatever you say you're going to provide for those services, right? So we can do this. We're going to cut the goddamn, exchange for dollars for gold, because now we got you suckers like Japan and China to buy a shitload of dollars so you can have dollars to go and buy gold and oil, right? Or so they thought, but we're going to get rid of it. So now I'm sitting on all these dollars, right? Now you control inflation, America. What's happening? You control the price of oil. You control the price of gold. Things are fluctuating. It's a trickle-down effect throughout the economies around the world because now America controls all this. So people are getting pissed off. Countries are getting pissed off. They want something different. But America can now, and all these other countries follow suit. We can go into Africa. We can go into the Middle East. We can go into these other countries. We can pull resources out of the ground. Gold, whatever, minerals, whatever we need to pull out of the ground, anything that's basically priced in dollars, we can pull out of the ground for way cheaper, right? So this is how we're going to get around all the bullshit. So this is what they do. But now people are tired of it. They're tired of America doing what it's been doing. We're seeing what happened to Gaddafi. We're seeing what happened to Saddam or what have you. So now you have other countries being smart and they're forming different alliances. So now we have BRICS. And BRICS basically come together. America's not involved. France is not involved. Britain is not involved, right? Japan is not involved, right? All the allies of America is not involved. But these other countries are involved. And they come together basically to try to change this whole situation, which has been a problem for countries for a long time. And you guys got to understand fucking karma. You got to understand that you can't do what America has done for so long and keep getting away with it. The time is going to be up, and that time is coming. It's coming. And a lot of countries are coming together. And again, this is going to be seemingly so for the people who don't understand, but there are, puppeteers, there are masters, there are people in the shadows making this all come true. And for anybody who's not in the understanding or consciousness of what this stuff is all about, it's going to look like a normal cause and effect situation, as I said to you guys before, where this whole thing is being orchestrated and has been orchestrated since the beginning, for those who understand, right? So BRICS is here. And BRICS is forming and getting bigger, and BRICS is set and poised to take over as being the dominant force throughout the world with these countries coming together. But there's a problem. And that brings us to this video, right? What's happening in Burkina Faso? What's happening in Mali and Niger, right? What's happening throughout the world? What just happened in Kenya recently, right? So in Kenya, we had AFRICOM, but we know AFRICOM is bullshit. It's fucking America basically going in there and checking on their African puppets to make sure everything is good, right? So now it just so happens, they do this in May a lot, to be honest, but we know what happened with Ibrahim Traoré and, the General Langley, the black general in America. Funny, his, last name is Langley, and they picked a black fucking 4-star Marine general to be, to spearhead this whole thing, right? right? And you see him and you see the whole squad he got here with him and everybody that's over in Africa. And he sat down and he took questions and they basically asked him, is he going to change his statement on, what he said about Burkina Faso? He basically gave credit to Ibrahim Toure, if you guys saw the interview. And he basically saying like, these guys are doing what they have to do for their country or what have you. But his whole thing is this. His whole thing is basically saying, well, he's using his country's gold to protect himself because he has to worry about Al-Qaeda, ISIS, right? And these other rebels coming in there looking for refuge, right? Looking to train Burkina Faso people and basically use their land as a refuge or what have you. So he's telling them to beware, right? Now, to me, that's a threat. Because he's basically telling you that's who they're going to sick on these people to basically try to destabilize them. And this is what I talked about before, understanding how they use the rebels. And throughout history, you pay attention. Just look at it, backtrack it. Al-Qaeda, right? ISIS. We train these people. We give them weapons. It's already been proven. We send them out to do the dirty work. This has been done for a long time. The same thing they're doing with the African rebels, sending them out there to basically destabilize African areas or what have you, so they can go in there and act like, they're, because the church shit don't work no more. Coming in there on humanitarian or coming in there on missionary bullshit, the Red Cross shit, it's not working no more, right? So they're using brute force. And they're going to come in there and destabilize the area. So then they can come in there and say, hey, we can help you guys out, right? It's the same shit they do. Problem, reaction, solution. We're going to cause the problem, right? We're going to wait for you to react. We're going to come in and present a solution, but it's going to have a stipulation. That stipulation is going to be, dude, we need to dig in the ground and get some of your stuff out. Or we need to set up shop here for a certain amount of time, and we'll do that in exchange for getting rid of your rebel problem. But you guys see what's happening. The Burkinabe people in Kenya, people all over Africa are marching in solidarity, showing that they are in support of Ibrahim Toure and what he's trying to do. Dude, again, like I said, I'm always cautious about everything, right? So the stuff is all over YouTube. It's all over YouTube. Go onto YouTube and you'll see all of the lives. They're live streaming this stuff. They're showing everybody everything. I promise you, if they didn't want this information to get out, it wouldn't get out. You wouldn't see any of it. But they're letting this stuff get out because they want people to understand what's going on. There are large rallies. I mean, they got on T-shirts, so many African people supporting what this man is doing. They're calling him a messiah, right? A chosen one, right? And they're putting this dude super high up on a pedestal, and it's coming to, a head, and it's going to come to a head at some point, right? So, what's going on here? And you have now these African countries, these leaders coming together, right? They form ISKA, which is basically the International Security Conference on Africa, to basically come together and, figure out how militarily, how economically they're going to go through with the process in Africa, right? So at the same time, as I said today, in Kenya, we have AFRICOM and that whole bullshit. They're meeting and they're basically discussing on what America can do with the other countries as far as ramping up security and economics, and what can we do as far as aid and everything like that. And we know they're basically there to me, they're there to see who's still on board, right? Let me gauge these African puppets that we put in place to see who's ready to jump ship, to see who's turning towards what they're trying to do in Burkina Faso, right? So they're there basically probably strengthening and instilling more support in Africa to either, garner more support for what they're doing. Because what is AFRICOM there for, right? AFRICOM is supposed to be there for exactly what I said before. Humanitarian reasons, right? Aid, food or what have you, medicine. And they basically there to keep things stable, they say. But we know what's going on. The forces that are there that have been armed with machine guns or what have you are there to destabilize the lands that have resources that America wants. So America has an invested interest in African countries, which is the whole point of AFRICOM. Right? It's the whole point of it, right? So that's why they're there. They're not there because they care about the African people. Look how long this has been going on for. And there's no way you could be in Africa that long, pulling billions of dollars out of Africa, and then in the lands that these people live in, it's poor. You have cities, you have beautiful cities in Africa, but the people who put in this work the villages that have been destroyed and people that's been displaced are not receiving any type of funds or money from that situation or what have you. So to us, people in America, they're looking at it and saying, well, they're getting food, they're getting help, they're getting medicine from America. And what is that in exchange for? It in no way compares to the amount of resources and gold they're pulling out of the ground from these people, the people who it belongs to. So it says here about AFRICOM, the United States Africa Command, AFRICOM-led 2025 African Chiefs of Defense Conference takes place in Nairobi starting on Wednesday at the time when many African countries are facing political and economic instability and humanitarian crisis, which are likely to pose security threats to U.S. interests in Africa and create space for expanded engagement by U.S. competitors. Basically what's happening with Russia, right? This is what they're talking about. Brigadier General George Dyrich, director of logistics at AFRICOM, told the East African that the meeting will provide a platform for open dialogue, knowledge exchange, and collaboration on topics such as emerging technologies, professional military education, and civilian military cooperation. The conference serves as a premier forum for military leaders across the continent to convene, collaborate, and address pressing security concerns. Leveraging the achievements of the 2024 conference held in Botswana, which featured more than 70 bilateral engagements, we seek to strengthen partnerships and elevate African-led solutions, the officer said. This year's theme is Strengthening African Security, Sustaining Unity of Effort. In 2024, the Gaborone Conference focused on shared security and stability challenges, fostering partnerships and exchanging knowledge. This is a big event, Brigadier General Dyrich said. It's really where the U.S., this time co-hosting with Kenya, brings in military leaders from all over the continent to discuss some of the challenges and come up with collaborative solutions on how we can address some of them. So collaborative solutions, right? Collaborate with what? Have they been collaborating with Africa? If they was collaborating with Africa, then we wouldn't have these problems that we have. Now, we have so many other countries having issues with France, right? Dealing with other countries, but behind the scenes, we know America has a hand in so much that's going on over there, right? So here's the thing to where America can basically say, well, we're here as humanitarians. We come to Africa for aid to help the people out or what have you. And then most people are not seeing what's really going on and how we're in there training rebels, arming people, causing destabilization for everybody else, basically. And they're cleaning up. Dude, let's not forget. And this is what drives me nuts about the whole thing. Forget the politics. Forget all the bullshit. Everybody saying this and that. We know what happened. We know these people came together. All these leaders came together to basically decide how they're going to divide up Africa, right? So they came together to decide how they're going to divide up Africa during the whole Berlin Conference, right? Way back in the 1800s. And this is what's been going on ever since then. You think those countries that's involved, they're all still in power. They're all super rich and they got rich off Africa. So now the African people are basically saying enough's enough. And you're seeing this stuff all over YouTube and everybody's coming out and saying enough's enough. Africa, we need to be self-sustaining. We need to control our resources no more. We don't want any more influence from the West. The West is the problem. They keep coming over, doing shit. They've been doing shit for years. And everybody's looking at Ibrahim Traoré and saying this guy is the Messiah. He is the one we've been waiting for. And you had a lot of people before try to do what he did, and they've been assassinated. They've been killed. And it's like, of course, I scratch my head. I'm always going to be skeptical about shit and say, why not this guy? Is it that he's just that good they can't get to him? What's going on? The fact that he made it out of Africa into Russia, got escorted, by a military escort with Russia. It's a lot with that whole situation that you got to pay close attention to and not just accept for face value. I think it's a lot more to the whole situation that a lot of people are not seeing. And I think it's being done deliberately. So I want you guys to just pay attention, right? And pay attention to everything that we're seeing. BRICS, right? So BRICS is basically showing you we have countries coming together to basically dissolve the superpower that is America. And Americans are we don't really care because we're looking at it with the arrogance and saying, well, America is America. Of course, this is not going to happen. And we have allies and so on and so forth. The fact that Japan, Britain, the US, right, France, none of these are involved. And that we having this trade issue with China, which is in BRICS. We're having this issue with Russia, which is in BRICS, right? So we're having these issues with people that's a part of a group that's trying to basically dismantle America as being the world reserve currency and being on top of the world. What do you think is going to happen? How do you think this whole thing is going to play out? Enter Africa, as I said before. Africa is the biggest wild card because now you having this and you having Africa poised to destabilize every fucking thing, right? You're going to have a major economic collapse in America at some point. And it's going to be a trickle-down effect with all of this. This is what I've been talking about in the society. This is what I've been preparing you guys for a long time. The writing's on the wall of what's coming. And there's a lot we're going to dig into with that whole thing. But this is setting the stage. And today was a big marker, which is why I'm doing this video, was a big marker for the whole thing with AFRICOM and the jargon in AFRICOM and what was being said. The fact that all this is coinciding around the same time with the events in Burkina Faso and the rise of Ibrahim Traoré is not a coincidence, man. And I'm not saying the guy is a puppet. I'm not saying he was placed there. I'm just saying this is very highly convenient. And the fact that Russia being involved with this whole situation is a big deal. Gold, that's the thing. Now, it's crazy. I would leave it alone. I wouldn't touch it if Burkina Faso had no gold. Because if this whole thing happened and it's just, rebels or let's just say, military coup or what have you, and there's no gold there, there's no resources, it doesn't matter. Of course, France wouldn't be in there in the first place. But the fact that there's so much gold involved and then now Russia's involved and then now that's the problem, right? And then now you're having the issues with Japan. We know what happened with Japan. Japan basically got with XRP. And it's going to be a big deal with XRP because they are basically going to use XRP, and they're already using XRP to facilitate their exchange of currency, right? And a lot more. So we know that's a big deal with that. But the issue, and I was just explaining this earlier, the reason why we had the Bitcoin drop, right? And it's another thing that falls into all of this. There's so much, right? The reason why we had the Bitcoin drop is because Japan, right? A lot of people don't know Japan holds over $1 trillion in US bonds, right? $1 trillion. More than China, which China has like 800 and something billion in US Treasury bonds, right? So that's basically the dollar, you might as well say. So the thing is this, if you guys know, Japan has been the workaround for investing in global commodities, let's just say. So the thing would be this, you can go to Japan, you can get a loan and you can get dollars and go invest in whatever you're going to invest in because Japan had a 0% interest rate, right? 0% interest. That's where everybody go to. And now, since you have an issue in Japan for many reasons, Japan has, for the first time in like forever, raised the interest rate